the minute that you start building team, you need to start realizing how to give up,
Right.
And really provide oxygen into the room that you were once creating a vacuum for. Here we are again, behind the grind.
Brian Tam,
Rich Brubaker.
we got an interesting topic this time. I think this one will touch on many levels around your personality, around your mindset, around the different skills, and the overarching theme is artist versus entrepreneur. And are we going to say verse, or we're putting them at opposite ends here?
In a way, I think, yeah, they are. They can be.
Yeah.
Particularly from like how you build your organization, how you execute on your path.
Yeah, totally. So, I think the first thing we have to do is like check which one are you, right?
Yeah.
And what would you say?
Actually, I'm a bit of both, and
Yeah.
I think this is where like the topic came up was, I think most entrepreneurs start off very much as an artist. They have a canvas, they have a framework, they have the color, they have it all in their head, what this is supposed to look like, and how it's supposed to go.
Right.
And the challenge is, one is if you get kind of bored with that, will you go start something else, right? Like be very
or when it gets too difficult.
When it gets too difficult, we throw the brush and have a hissy fit, and or if you're going to be the entrepreneur, how do you learn to operationalize your magic or your madness, whatever it may be? And I think this is kind of where I was looking at this topic, thinking, you have to find a balance. If you're too artistic, you're going to lose everybody.
Yeah.
But if you're too much entrepreneur and you're too practical, you may lose what brought you to that piece of art.
Yeah, if you're just chasing the dollar or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think you have to, like, you put it very clearly. Artists, you need to start with the artistry.
Right.
You need to start with that vision. You need to have that big idea. And I think that charm, that vision is what attracts a lot of people towards you, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't have that, then it's very hard to start going.
Right.
I mean, in many ways.
Yeah, and actually, I was thinking about this early on. Like, if I look at the different teams that I've worked with, the first team for me always seems the most artistic.
Yeah.
They are passionate.
Right.
They're willing to really just go out there, and they're willing to really believe that when you're finished with this painting or you're finished with this piece of music or whatever, that it's going to be the masterpiece that is missing.
Right.
Right. The second group is a little bit more like, well, can we get a little bit more over here, and that needs to elevate over here, and just don't be so involved over here. Focus on creating the next piece of music.
Right. We start thinking we know.
Right. And their ideas at the time, I think, are probably the most uncomfortable because you don't want the feedback. You want to still believe like, this is my masterpiece. You're not really understanding like this is the
second version of the team.
It's the second version.
About.
Yeah, the second version of the team. And then obviously I think it changes as you go third, fourth, fifth, and as you replace people,
and
as you grow.
That's a whole process in itself, which we mentioned before.
And as you grow, I think the process then becomes, how do I get these 50 people to appreciate the madness, to drink the Kool-Aid, become a little mad themselves, so that they don't become so
jaded. Just
flat.
process.
I'll call it flat. There's a process. They have their job. They know what they're on this instrument. That person's on this color. Like, they have their job.
They're just following the script.
They're following the script
rather than bring it to life.
I think that's kind of where like the fun is, and where I kind of thought like we could have a good conversation about this, because I know a lot of people are out there thinking, I'm an entrepreneur, but I like a lot of process as a starting point. I don't necessarily have anything new, but then. At the end of the day, like, you have to look at it and be a little bit crazy and say, like, there has to be another way. Otherwise, you would just go join a company that has the impact that you want, knowing that, believing they have the Gatorade, the juice, as it were, to take you forward. Yeah,
I mean, I remember one of our first conversations. You said the first year is the best year.
Yeah.
I was like, what are you saying? Don't break my heart. What's going on? and so I really tried to make sure I enjoyed it. But even after that, I was thinking, all right, how can I carry this? How do I bring this magic forward? Right. It is just and I say magic, but it feels like magic, right?
It does.
In the way suddenly what you're talking about becomes interesting to people. You have this certain sense of charm, this way of like influencing them and bringing them towards your journey and your vision, right? And it's so charismatic and but it's also so elusive.
Yeah.
And so after a year or two, it fades, the luster is gone, and now
Well, potentially. Yeah.
and now we're looking for it again.
Yeah.
To go find it again.
And that's where I think like the artistry of entrepreneurship is just, it can be a demon that you're constantly chasing.
Right. Yeah.
Or it can be something that you learn to counterbalance through a great team around you. And you can still drive that way and still be romantic or be passionate or be driven on the change that you think is needed in the world. And that could be just a better microphone. It does, like, I'm in sustainability, but somebody else is in camera lenses. And Jesus, Peter McKinnon just sold $1.5 million worth of photography backpacks in a week. So clearly he saw a need in the market, and people thought like, wow, that's a masterpiece of photography equipment. I need to have it. I think everyone wants that. But there's a whole ensemble behind him.
Of course, yeah.
Right?
And I think that's what you're talking about is going away from just being the artist and then a little bit towards the entrepreneur, which is team building, which is figuring out what your weaknesses are, right? And what would you say some of the weaknesses are of an artist?
Team building. Like, actually, I will say from my own experience, my biggest weakness, and anyone who's watching this has been on any of my teams, that's it. Like
is that an apology?
There are people that I have apologized to, and there's people I'd like to, but they will never talk to me again. But no, I mean, honestly, like that has always been I know that my strength is inspiring.
Right.
I know where my weakness is in management and motivation. So it's like motivating you to go through like the challenge that I think is we all need to be on this.
Right.
And then managing it when you're not. When I can't even motivate you or inspire you. Like, I just need the bullwhip out, right?
You're not good at that.
I'm not good at that.
Team building.
It's tough. It's really tough. And I think in part because, I mean, I think every entrepreneur is a little bit different. My issue might be because I have multiple teams, and I'm also multiple geography. So, and that's multicultural.
You want to keep it simple, don't you?
Right? Like, I just like to keep it simple, keep it real. And I think when I was thinking one time about how my team looks at the other stuff that I do, they got to be thinking like, well, what is it about this that's not worth focusing on in a way, right?
That's interesting.
Or it could be doing all this for whom? Is he trying to elevate his personal brand? Is that what this is all for? And there's been some confusion there.
Do you ever talk about that in your team? It's maybe a slightly different topic, but
okay, so this is the other part of entrepreneurship that I think is very artistic.
Right.
Being introverted and closed up.
Right.
No, I don't talk about it.
Huh.
No, why should I?
Okay.
Right? Like, in a way, no. I'm getting better at it, and I've learned through the pain, and I've learned to share a little bit more.
But you're aware that they may have these kind of questions in their mind.
I'm aware of that, yes. And there's days where I will speak to that a little bit more, and sometimes I'll just like, you know what, that's a question that you can just...
You can't give it to them in a way.
I can't give it to them.
They have to figure it out. It's their own personal challenge, right? I mean...
So it's not all on them, it's also mine. I go back to like how you were raised is important as well, but also what you're doing is important. So, being in the nonprofit world as a starting point, you didn't talk about what you did very much. And actually, in my space of sustainability, I hate people that talk too much and don't do anything.
Right.
And I hate talking and feeling like I haven't done what it takes to talk about it. Like, of course, I talk a lot and I put a lot of videos out there, but I'm interviewing other people who I think are way more ahead of me versus me just creating a vlog about myself.
Right.
The work of hands-on, the work of collective, I'm not looking for the external recognition. I'm looking for the impact with our clients, with our issues, whatever it may be. And I feel like if I haven't gotten that, then there's no point in talking about it. So just more naturally, I think just do the work, focus on your thing, and the rest separate. And for some reason, this thing of like, what's Rich really doing kind of falls into that. That's outside the lanes that you need to worry about, which I will say has not worked in every case with every person. Some people are okay with that. Some people are like, no, man, because you inspired.
They want the clarity around it, right?
Well, they want clarity, but also I think, as Sydney was telling my wife, she was like, they want to be inspired by you. Because actually, some people joined specifically because of you. Yeah. But you're not giving them what you're
delivering on that.
Yeah, you're disconnecting because and it's weird. It's a hard balance.
And I think that what we're seeing right now is the artist persona right? And the struggle between, you know, how much do I reveal and how much, you know, I love to wear many different hats, and you know, that's a perfect example of it.
I also don't like to brag.
Yeah.
Like that's really,
that's the Midwest side.
I don't know what it, you know what, I was out on Facebook one time. I was just like, I'm really proud of the teams. Yeah. We had a hackathon and we had a couple of really big volunteers. So both organizations were just like, they put it out there and they really moved the needle.
Feel great. Yeah.
And I was like, this is awesome.
Cloud9.
And I put that out there and people were like, what are you bragging, dude? Humble brag, hashtag humble brag. I'm like, no, you know what, the 1 or 2 times I'm doing it a year, it's really for the team.
Right.
And it's really to kind of recognize like there's some great work that we've done. But every time before I hit post, I'm like, man, is this bragging? Like, what is because it's uncomfortable for me.
It's interesting,
right? So it's a lot of different things, but I think that comes back to the artist. The minute that you start building team, you need to start realizing how to give up, you know, and really provide oxygen into the room that you were once creating a vacuum for in the past. I think this is where a great artist always has a great assistant or a great collaborator or works with other artists, and they all
I always found that interesting. I mean, that seems to be the ideal business model, or not business model. Model of collaboration, right? I mean, you have these ideas. These people know your tendencies, know your styles, and know what you're trying to achieve, and they add something to it. And as a team, we're being artists together. I'm like, holy shit, that's the ideal.
That's where it works.
That's where you have all engines. You know, whatever.
And that's tough because that's like, what's your ego? What's my ego? Where does it fit? Where does it not fit? I do have one partnership that we started 2 weeks ago. I mean, I've been talking with her I've known her for years. Okay. We talked about it like more seriously, say 3 months ago. Right. She brought in a project. I executed on it. She executed on hers. I executed on mine. And actually it's like, this feels okay. Now, for her, it was fine because her entire business model was click into 15, 20 people, have them as like her portfolio of offers. And then she would just be the brand. Right. She'd sell the top. For me, I'm thinking, you know, like brand to brand. And so actually what I did was, you know, years ago, I'd be like, well, I have to have my card. And I'm like, you know what? I won't even give out cards. I won't use somebody else's email address, but you know, like I will not self-promote. Right. I'm here to work with you. And if anything happens from here, if the apple falls from the tree or the seed, whatever, it's all you. I'm cool with that. Okay. And I find but you have to learn how to dance with people. Yeah. Right?
And I think that's really interesting. And I think what's happening more and more is that the marketplace is moving that direction. Yeah. So if you can't dance across multiple organizations, wear multiple hats and wear multiple types of outfits as you're going through that, you're going to have a really hard time.
Yeah. Which might be where like the idea, like, you know, we're all in co-shared workspace, gig economy. We're all talking about this
for now,
you know, and we're all project based kind of thing. Yeah. For now, right? Like WeWork's going to die, people. Just let you know. Get over to somewhere else. It's gonna end awfully. But the process, the platform is certainly there. How will you, as an individual solo entrepreneur, pick up work? It's going to be through these collaborations, and just having enough of them will make sure that you're elevating yourself. Right. But you have to make sure like the artist that you are matches to the other. Like I play piano, you're playing the sax. You know, it's just going to work. Right. If we're both playing the same instrument, it's gonna end badly.
Unless you can do that, right? I mean, there's dual piano, right? That's kind of a thing. I enjoy those, you know. You started talking about operationalizing artistry. Yeah. Can you tell us more about that?
So this is where I think topics around products is really where it clicks in very well. In agency world, what I find is it's very easy to kind of bounce around from project request to project request. Yeah. And you have a skill set of, say, facilitation. And everyone knows that you're a good facilitator. But you start calling it other things. Hackathon, you know, external engagement, internal engagement. You try and create products for facilitation that all have unique branding or offerings or whatever. And they're all priced differently because some are 6 days and some are half days. Right. But at the end of the day, you're just a facilitator. If you can understand what the process is that's underlying that, or a product that exists that is actually unique to the other things that you do, you can then create a process underneath that where you can build organization. And where actually, what I found say hands-on was, we start off with one project, we'd perfect that, go down, then that would lead us to the next project in the portfolio. We'd follow that, we'd go down. And actually, as we had more of these things, they were all interlinked. As we had more, like we would work with children, we work with elderly, we would work with the environment, we would work with education. As we built all these things, actually, the pie grew not just for ourselves, but more interest was coming in. And actually, I just found like, from a process perspective, as that was happening, it got much easier to create delegation. It got much easier to train your staff. It got much easier to give up the artist myself, allow the team to become more artistic. And then I would go out and maybe look at the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And as that process took hold, actually, I found that the organization itself grew stronger.
Right.
Now, replicating that into, say, collective or into the other things, like, definitely been harder. It's much more service-based. So I think product really helps.
That's interesting. And that's where the entrepreneur mindset really needs to kick in.
Yeah.
So you're thinking, how do I build a system around it? How do I not just have the process, but the people within
The people.
that, and then build their capabilities, make them feel comfortable and familiar with the whole thing.
And in every way, like, as you're doing that, as you go from like, okay, I've started with this, and this is my vision, to really breaking it out into a process. And you have the team there, but you also understand, what does impact mean? Like, my product goes into another company, and that company takes it forward. You can measure that impact, the theory of change around that company. If you're doing it, you're working with, children who are homeless, and you're putting them into houses, you can see that change. And then you know how to iterate, you know how to improve. Like, so actually, by moving that way, you start to get much better output at the end. But if you've been switching around, what does your KPI look like? Well, it's like, well, did I sell anything? Is my brand there? Like, you look at the higher level stuff. Muddy. It's very muddy. And I think that frustrates a lot of artists. Or like, should I be painting, or should I be doing something else? So kind of back to our conversation a little bit about losing your religion. Like, I'm not a painter. I'm actually a singer. I don't know. Like, you start to flip flop a little bit.
Right. Crazy. So, I mean, do you think about fostering artists on your own team? Do you ever think about that? Is that something?
Something I've definitely thought about. I think long term, for the organization's health, you need to have a little bit of crazy in there that looks at your own organization and says, nah, you're on the right path, but you need to do this differently. You need to, like, you're becoming mediocre. You want to be great again. You want to fill the gap that, like, you started with this gap, but you've done that. Now you got to go fill the next gap, and they need to see that as well. Right. I think that's great, not just for the organization, but for the individuals. Like, the more that they are growing,
that's what growth is. Right?
Yeah.
That's
and
stretching.
I think that they only do that. Let's talk about the second team. The first team's all crazy. Like, they're all with you, and they're like,
with you
they're like,
for a reason,
problem.
They love it.
It's the second team. It's like, I need process. I need to learn. I need 6 months to learn the organization, the products, and through that process, now I'm comfortable. Now I'm risk free. Right. I now know we can do this without any. Hey, boss, can we do that? Can I take that trip and meet that partner? Can I? They come to you with like the practical iteration. Then they're like, we haven't even thought about this over here.
Sure.
And you need. This is where I'm saying, like, I've struggled to build teams that can do that on a regular basis. When you get that, I think there's real magic there. Yeah, for sure.
You have to build home base, right?
Yeah.
Make sure you're safe at home. Everybody feels good.
Yep.
And then you can start going out there and exploring again, and then you can start leveraging that.
Definitely.
So in the next phase of the career, what are you thinking about? Artist, entrepreneur? How are you gonna?
Firefighter. I think there's a few things I'll do. One is I'm maintaining my crazy. I'm not giving up on that. Like, I think that it's very easy to question yourself, like, when the organization isn't coming together, the impact isn't coming together, when your team is fighting you, to think that you're crazy for being crazy. You start to give up. You start to not believe in yourself. Like, that's the burnout. That's the confidence issues. Yeah. Believe that you're crazy. No, like, just embrace that. But also understand that if you don't look at the other side of this, if you don't look at the organization, you don't look at the individuals in the organization, you don't look at how to maintain that inspiration, motivation, management as an individual or as a core team, then you're going to fail. Like, adjust. And so be a little bit more practical. Give up a little bit of perfect to get enough done so that you can then go build the next thing or iterate to the next level. Because what I realize is by not doing that, I've lost a lot of time.
Yeah.
I've lost momentum. I've lost clients. I've lost team. I lost knowledge. Like,
It's critical.
it's critical. And at the end of the day, you're going to end up really angry, wondering why everyone's looking at your canvas going, oh, that's horrible.
Mm-hmm.
That's dog shit. I'm going to that museum, right? Like, you don't want to be that person that puts so much work into it that no one appreciates it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that's where I kind of am now. It's like, what are the gaps that I'm facing at the organizational level? How can I inspire them to be a little bit crazier? Because I have a really good project team that I've got. But
awesome.
how can I get them to take the organization to the next level so that I can actually back away and watch them take this to the next place, that they themselves would look back and go, wow, that's really crazy how far we've got.
Yeah, we did this together.
Right? Like, yeah, and it didn't need Rich. Like, that would be great for me.
Yeah.
But it's a process, and I think it takes a lot of thought. It takes a lot of intent. You have to really, and it also takes a lot of self-control.
Yeah.
Because it's very easy to jump back in at any point. Like, no.
Yeah. Let me show you how it's done.
Let me show you
it's
how
like
it's done.
this, but you know what the cost of that, or what happens is people are retracting.
Yeah, if you build the wall too high, like eventually people are like, you know what, I'm gonna turn around and go back.
Yeah. I heard this great quote, or I read this great quote by Simon Sinek, and he said, "The cost of leadership is self-interest."
Interesting.
And I was like, oh, you know, it's exactly right. You know,
Yeah.
and a lot of times we want to come back in and show the right way of doing things, or correcting people, or whatever it is. But who's that for? We think it's for them, but it's really just to show off in some ways.
Yeah.
And so that, I mean, so many times as you were talking about that artist mindset and the entrepreneur mindset, I was like, and trying to connect it back to like management and leadership. Well,
Yeah.
that's what it is.
And I think, you know, at the end of the day, like, we're all humans. And actually, when you're saying that, like, yeah, like you're flexing, right? I think sometimes you're so caught up in building the organization that you don't realize what your actions look like to others.
Yeah.
And so it's very easy, like, even if you're not being a certain way, people read that and then you don't adjust. And so when you ask me, like, yeah, are you talking to your team about that? Like, you're actually maybe talking the team through why I take take these trips, why I have this idea,
like, a little bit.
Help them a little bit. And then maybe that's the difference. Maybe it doesn't help.
And
but
probably they don't even care, but at least I think it's about the effort that you made, so that they do feel like, all right, he is thinking about how I see things, right?
Right.
And maybe that is something I should consider.
Yeah.
That's really amazing.
Thanks, Brian.
Therapy. And how does that make you feel?
I feel awesome. I feel entrepreneurial. Yeah, I mean, this is all tough, and I think this is, you know, when I come down to like the things that really define, like when I'm meeting with other entrepreneurs, this is a struggle for most of them.
Oh, totally.
Except for the ones, especially the solo entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
The ones who started in teams, like, hey, Brian, I've got this crazy idea. Like, I've had the same one too. Well, Brian, you're really good at team management, and I'm really good at product development.
That would be perfect.
It's like bang, right? And then you can take off together, and you can build your teams.
It's amazing.
And that's fun.
When that happens.
When that
If
happens. I think it happens a lot. It just hasn't happened in my case, and I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining. I took off on my own, but at the same time, you just have to respect that has different implications than this, right? And at some point, you'll give up your ego because you'll just have been humbled by the mountain.
Yep.
Right.
That'll do it.
That'll do it
Every time. And that's why we enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's just recognizing
keep hitting me.
Humanness, right? Yeah.
So, yeah, man. I mean, I think that's kind of that's all I got.
Well, what I took away from this then, right?
Yeah.
What I took away from this is this idea. I never really thought to put these two in contrast to each other. You know, artist and entrepreneur, I really thought of them as a similar persona, but I love how you separated the two. The artist is the idealist and the charismatic one who leads with the vision and all that kind of stuff, and oftentimes is a starter, but oftentimes starting by him or herself, right?
Right.
On the other side, the entrepreneur is that practical one, the one who's trying to build the team, operationalize everything, put the process in place. And that makes sense because an entrepreneur is business building.
Yeah.
Of course. And so how do you build a business except to create processes that are repeatable? Otherwise, if you're doing things that are ephemeral, that's a lot more artistry.
Yeah.
And so I love how you separated the two. That was a huge distinction. And I loved it. And another thing that I thought was really amazing was just framing which team are you working with. Are you working with the first team, the second team, the third team, and what do they need? And every stage is going to be different. I thought that was really, really smart too, because then it made me start thinking back. It was like, oh yeah, this person is a holdover from the first team, and this person is really part of the new team.
Yeah.
Everything's different for this person. So it's blended, but if you can try to draw that box somewhat, it really helps.
I totally agree, and I actually I'm just saying like how this conversation in a way really validates that. Like we're both a special crazy. Yeah. We're both developing a process where we bring out each other's crazy, but in a way that works together. Right. On camera. We've been talking about this for a while. And it's like, I could sit here and talk to the camera, but you to feed off each other, to work with each other, to kind of see things. And like sometimes I'm up, sometimes I'm down, sometimes he's up. Sometimes I'm like, I have something to say. So we work off each other.
Totally.
That I think is what works.
Saxophone, pianist.
I'm good with that.
Here we are, making some music together.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
So keep your crazy.
Keep your crazy.
Yeah. I'll keep my crazy.
And
behind the grind.
Just keep going. Yeah, Behind the grind.
Brian Tam.
Rich Brubaker.
Thank you so much.
Have a great week.